Okay, so to start this off, I'd like to tell you a story about why I feel that I'm an advocate and why I believe advocacy is important. My name is Mona Bormet, and I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I am Korean American, and I grew up in, my mom moved here in the 70s and married my dad, a nice German French man from Illinois, and it's great, and I'm pretty awesome because of it, but I grew up in a family that was pretty diverse in different ways, from economic stability to culture to all sorts of different things. And my mom owned an Asian grocery store growing up, and so I grew up working at the store. And my senior year of high school, about 3 weeks into my senior year of high school, my mom had a brain aneurysm. And she was hospitalized and had emergency surgery and was in a coma, and luckily she recovered, and she was partially paralyzed for a while. And English is my mom's second language. So I spent a lot of time at the hospital advocating for my mom's care. And I really think that's when I became, sorry I get emotional when I talk about my mom. I think that's when I became an advocate, and I understood what it meant to be an advocate. And so that's why I think advocacy is important, and I wanted to start my presentation sharing that story. So I'm done. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about these things, why CCIH is involved specifically in family planning advocacy, some of the key issues, opportunities, lessons, and next steps. So I hope you enjoy. Are you ready? Okay. So why are we involved? We're involved for a variety of reasons. Devina talked about our 2008 survey that was done that showed that our members care about family planning, that there's unmet need, and that we need to be advocating for it. So that's just the short version. There's so many FBOs in our network that are very diverse. We have what some, if you want to use a political term, more liberal, more conservative members in our network, but what we know is that people care about family planning. They care about the communities they work in. They want to help their communities. And on top of that, in 2010, we received a grant from the United Nations Foundation specifically to work with our partners on advocating for family planning. And overall, it's really important. I don't think, it's not like in 2010 CCIH decided to be an advocate. CCIH in itself is an advocacy organization. They work on not only sharing information within our network of members, but with donors like USAID and with the State Department, telling them all the great work that our partners are doing all over the world. That is advocacy, talking to donors about our work. And so it's talking not only among faith-based organizations, but among secular organizations also. So what are our key issues? I don't know how many of you know, and some of you aren't familiar with the U.S. government, but right now the big thing is money. It's about money. That's whenever I go into an office, they're like, well, you want me to fund global health. Where am I going to get the money? And so no matter how often you talk about that global health funding is less than 1% of the U.S. budget, they want to know where they're going to get the money. So that's the reality of what we're dealing with when we advocate for our communities. Not only, and I'm not talking about the nitty-gritty of the issue area like family planning or HIV or malaria, but overall, when I go to an office and I say, please fund global health for XYZ reasons, the reality is the fiscal environment. And Dr. Mosley knows this. He went on Hill visits with me a couple months ago, and so he knows this. Do you like how I called you out, Dr. Mosley? And then the big thing about reproductive health messages is there's two myths that are floating around, and someone had asked a question about this earlier during Lawrence, that people think family planning is abortion. In the U.S., there's been these major cuts and these major fights to Planned Parenthood that provides family planning services. They're not the only organization that provides family planning, but for some reason, members of Congress who are, I will say, more conservative, have put family planning on the auction block and have put Planned Parenthood on the auction block because they think family planning is abortion. So a lot of what I do when I go into an office is say, family planning is not abortion. Faith-based organizations support family planning. It's talking about family, planning your families, providing options. And so a lot of what we do is education, and that's what advocacy is. It's educating. It's sharing your story, whether it's personal, whether it's about the work you do, or whether it's about the straight facts. which is family planning is not abortion, and that faith-based organizations do support family abortion, or, oh my God, do support family planning. Don't spread the first message around. So that we can just educate members of Congress. And so some of you might be familiar with this, and I'm sorry if it's old news. So some of the key opportunities, I love photos. So in the upper right-hand corner is Dr. Samuel Menda, who is the Devina, and often other people have talked about him, represents the Christian Health Association of Kenya. And he was here a few months ago, and he went on hill visits with me. And Erica Pearl from IMA Health, who's in this picture in the lower left-hand corner. It was a beautiful day. Cherry blossoms were blooming. We had to take photos. So Dr. Mwenda could show people back in Kenya. But it was great. Dr. Mwenda is an articulate man. He knows so much about the work and the community that he works with in Kenya. How many of you have been to Capitol Hill and have met with a member of Congress? Please raise your hand. Okay, so typically, and maybe I'm wrong, for most people, typical Hill meeting's like 15 minutes. Would you agree, disagree? With a staffer. When Dr. Mwenda came, we had a staff member that met with us for an hour and 10 minutes. She listened to every single word he had to say. She asked plenty of questions. And our shortest meeting was 40 minutes. Like, we were blown out of the water about how receptive people were to meeting with him. It was great. And so I really encourage you all. We're having our first advocacy day on Monday. So who's going? Who in the room's going? Stand up, be represented. I want to see who's going. I'm serious. Stand up, please. You think I'm joking? So if you want to hang out with us cool people, you should sign up to come hang out with us on Monday. All right. But advocacy isn't just going to the Hill. Like I said before, CCIH does a lot of work with USAID, other donors, et cetera, et cetera. Key opportunity number 2, part of our grant is to really work with our members that have U.S. offices. So my goal during the rest of the year is to find 3 partners based in the U.S. who are serious about trying to get involved in advocacy, about telling their story, about meeting with their members of Congress and going to visit you where your organization's at, and having meetings with you and talking about how we can increase your advocacy efforts. So if you are interested in that and would like to learn more, please talk to me. Oh, and I realized, oh yeah, Hawaii and Alaska are on there. I don't know where, if you're in Guam, the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Puerto Rico, or another territory, I apologize, they're not on the map. So key opportunity number 3 is, one of the things we'd really like to do is have you all involved more in our social media efforts. So how many of you have a Facebook page? Let's see it. All right, how about Twitter? All right. So does CCIH. How many of you are friends of CCIH on Facebook? Ooh, that wasn't as many hands as the people who had Facebook pages. I'm calling you out, people. I really encourage you to share your story. Ben, who's over there, Ben, wave your hand. Yay, that's Ben. Ben and I are going to be conducting some interviews, so if you are willing to be interviewed to tell your story, we're going to be doing that during breaks, during lunch, during dinner, today and tomorrow, so please come find me. We'd love to record your story. And so those are just some different things. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, and the other presenters have talked about this, is how important partnerships are. And this was talked about, for those of you, did anyone go to the advocacy session before this? Or Galen? They were talking about the importance of partnerships. So CCIH is a small organization. There is no way that we could do this alone. And so I mentioned some of the other folks that we work with. So I mentioned some of our UNF grantee partners, CARE, which is a very large secular organization. We work with them. The Global Health Council, who we're a member of. How many of you are going to GHC's conference next week? Very good. They also have an advocacy day on Wednesday. I'm going to that too. You should come. And then some other groups, the New Evangelical Partnership and the United Methodist Church, are some other grantees of the grant we're funded under. So we do a lot of work specifically with them. And then we also work with some other USAID partnerships like IRH and the other ones listed. So our lessons learned, policy, and advocacy can be a lot of, okay, we gotta do this, and now we have to wait. So I don't know if any of you have experienced that in your programs, but it can be slow, it can be frustrating, and the importance is just to be persistent and to have patience. And so those are our major lessons learned. And then I'd like to point out something in your folder. I'm not sure if it's on the right or left side, but it should say CCIH 2011 Advocacy Priorities. And on the back is a way to get involved in our advocacy efforts. It should all put out as my email, my phone number. Call me, email me, I'm friendly. About how to get involved. And our advocacy priorities, the reason I bring this up is CCIH didn't have written down advocacy priorities until this year, and so that was something we really needed to do before we actually took action this year. So this is something our board agreed to. And now if you read this and you're like, well, the area I'm most interested isn't on here, that doesn't mean that CCIH doesn't care about it. It means that we had to be very particular with the resources we have to focus on what our priorities could be for this year. So I just wanted to put that, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about that. And thank you.